For those of you who are now logging in, welcome. We'll just wait until we get a few more people in. Whilst people are joining, for those of you who are new to Zoom, and I would find that quite surprising by now, but many of you have attended many of our sessions, I'll just remind you that please use the chat pane to let us know who you are and where you're from. You can even tell us what you want to get out of today's session if you'd like. Martin has agreed to take questions at the end through the Q&A menu. So if you have questions as we're going along, please do put them in and I'll ensure that they all get asked of Martin. If we get to a point where people would like to participate in the second half after the presentation, there is a hands up capability and I can always bring people in live, either by just using your microphone, so you don't have to be seen, or if you wish to, by opening your camera as well. So we're up to, I think a few more we'll let in before we get going, because we're just on the hour really. So please be patient and please do use the chat pane to let us know whom you are, where you're from, because that lets all the other people who are in the webinar know as well, and it's quite nice to know who's in. For those of you interested in the cricket, Martin and I can tell you, and Martin joyfully told me that Broad has taken his 500th test wicket. So that's a significant moment for him. So today's session is being recorded, so for those of you who want to listen to it again, that's great. And thanks to Phil for letting us know about where he's from. So thank you for joining us, Phil. And also from Tony. So we have Liverpool City Council represented and Aquarium Claddings in the Southwest. Okay, Martin, I think I'd like to start, let's get going. So many thanks for joining us, Martin. I won't give an introduction. I'll let Martin give an introduction about himself. So I'm going to hand over to you, Martin. So many thanks for your time and welcome.
Right, thanks, Howard, and thanks for the invitation. As you'll have probably seen from the introduction, I'm Martin Taylor from LABC. I'm the Director of Regulatory Policy at LABC, but most of my time over the last 3 or so years have been dedicated on responding to the Building a Safer Future review of Dame Judy Packett. So what I've got to go through is a brief presentation, but we thought it'd be a good opportunity to provide a session of questions afterwards, because there has been some quite significant advancements in the work of the review with the publication of the draft Building Safety Bill on Monday last week. So brief presentation to start to go through pretty much where we are now, and then more than happy to take any questions and hopefully have an interactive session as we move through. So there you'll find my contact details, and I'm more than happy for you to contact me after this event, or for any questions to be forwarded through to Howard, and then I can then respond to those directly. As part of the work that I do with the Ministry for Housing, Communities and Local Government, they're very happy for me to interact at events like this, so we can actually start to sort of spread the word of what's happening with the review. I'll just try and advance the slides. I'm just having trouble with it. Right, okay. So as I've probably mentioned very briefly earlier, I am a member of, or I was a member of 2 of the working groups that were established by Dame Judy Packett as part of her review of building regulations and fire safety. I've then now moved through into being a member of the Joint Regulators Group, which is an expert group that advises the government on the implementation of the Building a Safer Future review. I'm then now also a member of a further 3 working groups that report into that joint regulators group. So as I mentioned, I'll go through a brief update of where we are with building a safer future, take no more than 20 minutes, and then have an open session for questions. So looking at where we are now within the review overall, we're now just over 3 years on from the Grenfell tragedy on the night of the 14th of June 2017. We've seen the publication of Dame Judith's interim report in December 2017, her final report in May 2018, and then her implementation plan in December 2018. There's been quite a lot of progress and updates to ensure clearer standards and guidance, particularly relating to building regulations and approved documents. Looking at those more specifically, we've seen the publication of the Building Amendment Regulations, which limit the use of materials on the external walls of high-rise properties. We've seen various amendments to Approved Document B. We've seen a clarified version of Approved Document B. We've then seen the extension of sprinkler provision down to 11 metres in high-rise and the introduction of wayfinding signage to assist with local fire and rescue services. And just last week, we saw the publication of a new manual to the building regulations and a amalgamated searchable approved document. So what that particular document is a bringing together of all approved documents in a format that can be searched quite easily electronically, which is quite a step forward for many sort of building control practitioners that work with those approved documents every day. We've also now got a work plan for the further update of Approved Document B. You could probably suggest that we're sort of somewhere between the short term and medium term on that diagram there. And you will see that there are various further updates and proposals to Approved Document B to come in the short, medium and longer term. So much as has been change over the last couple of months to years, there will be many more changes in that approved document as we transition towards this this new regime. Back to sort of where we are with the review overall. The 2nd of April this year saw the government respond to the Building a Safer Future consultation, and this was essentially how the government will deliver their reform over the coming years. There's a link there that you can access the consultation response document, and that will take you through much of the detail of the review overall. We then last week saw the publication of the draft Building Safety Bill, and this, in the government's words, will be new laws to bring the biggest improvement to building safety for a generation. There'll be a new regulator to raise standards, enforce new laws, and give a louder voice to residents, so building owners can be assured of their safety. There will be a commitment to improve regulations as the government seeks to bring forward a clearer system with residents at the heart of that system. And again, you can access that bill in full via the web link at the bottom of the presentation slide there. Again, in the government's words, this will be the biggest improvement in building safety in nearly 40 years. It is a wide-ranging bill with an individual focus on buildings in scope, but not exclusively so. And buildings in scope will be essentially residential buildings of 18 metres or 6 stories or more. There'll be a new national regulator to be known as the Building Safety Regulator, and that is currently being formed within the Health and Safety Executive. That regulator will oversee the safety and standard of all buildings, not just high-risk buildings, but it will directly assure the safety of higher risk buildings. The HSE, as the Building Safety Regulator, will be the building control body for all higher risk buildings moving forward, and they will be assisted in that work by local authority building control and local fire and rescue services. The regulator will also improve the competence of people responsible for managing and overseeing building work, and there is a particular section within the bill relating to the improvements of in the competence of building control professionals. Within now looking at more specifically the work that the regulator will undertake in respect of high-rise residential buildings, high-risk residential buildings. There will be the introduction of the duty holder concept that will underpin this new regime and place clear responsibilities on clients, principal designers and principal contractors. There will also be the introduction of new roles into the system overall, which will be that of the accountable person and building safety manager. And then there'll be an onus on the duty holder to demonstrate that safety is being effectively managed throughout the whole of the construction operation and through into occupation. There will also be the introduction of gateways for high-risk residential buildings, where there'll be a series of 3 robust gateway points, and developers will not be able to progress through those gateway points until they satisfy all the requirements at those individual gateway points. The first of which will be planning, where outline concepts relating to fire safety will need to be demonstrated. Then building control full plans, where it is currently anticipated that without full plans sign-off of every element, work will not be allowed to commence on site. But there is still discussion around how we could possibly stage approvals and applications to allow a prompt to start on site, but without compromising the intention of this particular gateway. The third gateway will then be at completion and occupation stage, where everything must be signed off and complete in accordance with the full plans originally demonstrated at Gateway 2 prior to any occupation taking place of that building. And if a developer or duty holder is unable to demonstrate that safety is being effectively managed, they will not be able to progress through to those particular gateway stages and indeed occupation. The responsibility will be on the duty holder to demonstrate managing safety at each of these stages, and if not, robust sanctions are currently being drafted in secondary legislation that can ensure that responsibility takes place. So within LABC, we have had to respond to the review overall to ensure that we have the necessary resilience and capacity and capability to fulfil our role in supporting the Building Safety Regulator. And thankfully, we started that journey in early 2017, so in advance of Grenfell, where we were looking to upskill, build resilience and assure delivery of our service. We worked with key delivery partners that are listed on the screen there, and that involved an investment from LABC of around £2 million. That developed an holistic approach to ensure both the competence of our teams and our individual surveyors, which builds in an ISO 9001 quality management system to each local authority building control team, the development of a centre of excellence. If one local authority does not possess the capability or capacity, then we have this sort of centre of excellence ability, so we can move projects between local authorities. We've then developed a licence to practice, where we've examined our building control professionals in relation to specialist fire safety measures, and where they have passed that assessment, we've issued them with a licence to practice. That involves a detailed external examination with the Institution of Fire Engineers, and it very much isn't an examination that every building control officer passes. We're currently working at a sort of pass rate of the high 60%. We've also validated all our qualifications and learning under the ISO 17024 framework, and continue to develop further learning and qualifications in partnership with bodies such as the Institution of Fire Engineers, Chartered Institute of Building, and the University of Wolverhampton. And we've then further developed our competency matrix. All of this sits together within the quality management system that we referred to at the outset. So under our quality management system, you can't use a surveyor on a project that hasn't been assessed as appropriately competent to actually work on that project. And this is our assurance to any client or resident, and we suggest that they start to ask for proof of that as we move forward to this new regime. So our next steps, just briefly to finish off, we will support the regulator to effectively transition into a new regime. We do support the appointment of the HSE, and we do think this will bring about a significant difference into the industry overall. We're continuing to work with what have been known as early adopter contractors, both on the public and private side, to trial this new regime and to ensure that things like gateways and safety cases will actually work when the system goes live. We're continuing to support key work streams within the ministry in relation to setting up key data sets and things like the golden thread of information. Support our local planning colleagues in the execution of Gateway 1, because as I'm sure you're aware, local authority planners are not experts in fire safety relating to high-rise buildings. We'll then support the Building Safety Regulator to implement this more stringent regime. And finally, we will respond with hopefully the rest of the industry and all of you on this call today to the draft bill, because it is a draft bill, and the government are very keen to continue to receive your comments as the bill passes through the various stages it needs. So in summary, I think the system did need radical change. I think the Building Safety Bill will bring that radical change. Individuals and companies need to be able to change their culture to be able to actually prove that they are competent. Delivering a safer future has to be non-negotiable. So with momentum building, let's make this change together. That's, again, contact details there, and that then ends the presentation, but more than happy to finish the session with questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. We have one question currently that's sitting from John Cumberledge. I think what I'll do, John, whilst I'm just chatting, if you're happy, I'll bring you up so that you can ask your question directly, which means that you're actually able to do a follow-on with Martin. So just give a minute, and what you'll find is that you will be able to open your microphone and your camera. Okay, so if microphone opens fine, please go ahead.
Hi Martin, apologies, my webcam isn't plugged in at the moment, so I'll spare you seeing me. So yeah, my question was around capacity within the system. So just to introduce myself, John Cumberledge from C3 Design Approval, so I'm an approved inspector, so fellow building control professional. Looking at the Building Safety Bill and the requirements that are rightly going to be put on building control professionals in terms of competency, there's obviously a big fear or a big potential that we can lose people from the industry in terms of people maybe not wanting to go through the process of becoming a registered building inspector and personal liability and those sorts of things. So it's a question really about how do we ensure the resilience and the capacity within the industry, and as a follow-on to that, really, how you guys see private sector ourselves feeding into that and supporting you.
Okay, I'm sure the reason you haven't got your camera on, John, is because you're watching the cricket. But no, it's as far as your sort of question is concerned, it is a very good question. You'll hopefully be aware of what's called the Future of Building Control Group that's currently convened by the ministry, which is bringing together building control professionals from both the public and private side, and also the relevant professional bodies. And one of the key agenda items that we are looking at is to actually ensure that we have that capability and capacity within the industry. I do think it is a risk that people sort of around my age might think, well, this is probably not where we want to continue with. But within LABC, we have invested sort of the last sort of 3 years in attempting to build that capacity. We've seen an increase of just over 15% in the last 2 years of building control professionals working in local authorities, and we're confident that we can actually deliver the work on behalf of the Building Safety Regulator and fulfil everything that we're going to be asked to under this new regime. If we can't, you'll be aware that the intention within the sort of bill is that we can introduce that capacity and capability from approved inspectors. But also approved inspectors can have another role in assisting the client. I'm not the sort of person that sees this as a sort of competition between the public and the private sector of sort of building control. I'm more focused now on getting this right and actually delivering safer buildings. So I think we've gone a long way in building our capacity, and look forward to contributing further to that debate in the future of building control group. So has that answered your question, John, or is there?
No, I think that's, yeah, thank you, Martin. I think that the key take away from that is trying to develop this one voice for building control.
Yeah, and all of you will now be able to access the initial report of the future of building control group. So any building control professionals that are on the call will be able to access the future of building control report, which does include a lot of detail around John's questions there around capacity.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Eamon, you have a question. I've opened your ability to speak live, so if you'd like to ask your question, please carry on. Eamon, I think we have a problem here. You don't have... Yep, you have now. You have now. Well done.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Yeah, my question was more about the gateway points and how specifications will become more rigid? Will there be a more inclination to go more traditional again, and maybe design and build maybe be pushed out to one side? I'm just curious how that's going to evolve.
Right. Yeah, design and build it will be a problem within the gateways. The intention is that specifications will need to be more rigid, but we've got to ensure that we get to a system that can actually be signed off and be built, because I know the industry are particularly concerned that gateway points will completely change how we procure buildings. But from Judith Hackett's point of view, she's very interested in actually changing those cultures at the outset. And one of the things that will change those cultures is actually to get all that information up front and dealt with. Where we're spending a lot of time now is in change management. Personally, I don't think we will get to a point where we are able to sign off every detail, or we'll be able to go through a project without there being any changes. So within the change management system, we're looking to introduce a very structured approach to account for any changes, where those changes have to be properly signed off as they occur, rather than trying to assemble all those changes at the end of a particular project. What we're doing with relation to rigid specifications is the government's intention remains that everything is signed off at building control plan stage prior to work starting. That will include a consultation with the Fire and Rescue Service. That will completely change how we procure buildings now. We are now looking, and this afternoon I've got another call with the Ministry where we're starting to consider staged approvals. Now, it is possible that we introduce a system of stage approvals, but it will be very much incumbent on the duty holder and the applicant to work in accordance with those stages that are set out at the outset. If there is any slippage from those stages, there must be the ability for the regulator to actually close that gateway and not allow that project to continue. So the intention remains very rigid, but I can see some flexibility being introduced in time.
Yeah, that's a fine answer. Thank you.
Okay, Eamon, thank you very much. I've opened, Brian Stevenson, I've opened your ability to speak and to go on camera if you wish to ask your question to Martin. So please open up and... Yep, he's coming through. There we go. Thank you very much.
No, I think my comment, I'm a senior technical operations manager at NHBC, and obviously, like others, we've got some concerns around the new regime. I think it's moving in the right direction, but our view is obviously the capacity within the industry to deliver on this. So I welcome Martin's view that there will still be a role for approved inspectors in some way, shape or form. We just need to make sure that their voice is still heard.
Yeah, your voice is very much still heard, because I probably see more of Diane Marshall these days than I do of my own family. So I can assure you that the NHBC very much have a place at the table at the Future of Building Control Group, and are very much engaged in the rollout of the bill as we move forward. But yeah, so yeah, your voice is being heard, definitely.
Okay, thanks, guys.
You happy with that, Brian?
Yeah, very happy, thanks.
Okay. We don't seem to have any more questions currently coming from the floor, but I'm quite interested, if you don't mind, Martin, in just looking at the issue of cultural change and change management that you've talked about. Because the construction industry, you know, if one looks back to things like Latham and Egan reports, you know, going back 20 odd years, it's very slow and quite a resistant culture to change. Any sort of comment you'd like to make on that?
Well, this has been the big mantra of Dan Judith Hackett all the way through about cultures needing to change. Personally, I don't think, you know, you can do whatever you do with things like gateways, with things like safety cases, duty holders. They will, by default, change culture, because if someone is personally, you know, starts to take personal responsibility as you move through the safety of a project, then surely they will change their culture as part of that duty being placed on them. But the only way we'll really change cultures in the longer term is by us all actually adopting a changing culture ourselves to be able to get through and sort of deliver in accordance with the review. We talk about change management, obviously not changing cultures, but actually the change management processes that go through a building control submission. What we're looking at there is a system of either major or minor changes. So major changes to any designs you move through the project will have far more implications and far more stringent requirements to actually sign things off properly before work proceeds. Whereas minor changes may well be able to be assembled and then signed off towards the end of the project, but it all very much depends on the magnitude of the change.
Okay, thank you. We've got a question, and Thomas raised his hands, Thomas Nachi, so looks like he's out and about. So Thomas, if you'd like to put your question to Martin, please carry on. Hopefully it's all going to work. So over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope it will work. I'm at Western Port Arboretum, so it's quite a nice place to be in on today. My question was regarding, you know, sort of it's quite good news that, you know, there's going to be more scrutiny and, you know, sort of a more rigorous look at, you know, the designs, specification and all the rest of it. But my question is regarding outline planning, whether any of these changes are going to affect how much information is required for outline planning.
Right. There is Gateway 1 that will be introduced at planning stage. Won't be introduced at outline planning stage. It'll be the intention is to introduce it at sort of detail planning stage. That is where you have an outline fire safety strategy submitted as part of that planning application, and then the planning authority will be required to consult with. Well, it could be any one of three people, but at the moment the proposal is that the planning authority will consult with the Building Safety Regulator, and they will get the Building Safety Regulator's initial views on the outlined fire safety strategy as part of the consideration of that planning application. So if things such as outlined fire safety measures are not taken into account at planning stage, you should be in a position where you will not be able to obtain planning approval, and then obviously not advance through that stage. The intention of having that gateway is for developers to think about fire safety measures much earlier in the process than they would have done normally.
And with regard, is that the same for, I mean, I know you've just mentioned the developers there. Is it the same for domestic outline planning as well?
No. When you're talking about domestic outline planning, this will relate only to high-rise residential buildings of 6 stories.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, so it won't relate to sort of smaller plan applications. No. That's not the intent.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got a question that's from Tony Masters. So Tony, I've opened up your screen. So if you'd like to put your question direct, please carry on. Thanks very much.
Martin. What do you see as being a realistic time scale for this culture change to take place? I know there will be obviously legislative timescales, but this is an enormous shift in culture. It's seismic.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, it is. I think it'll go. It will happen hand in hand with how the legislation is updated. So as the legislation moves forward and becomes updated, as you transition into a new regime, then that's when cultures will have to start to change. The biggest impact of all of this will be when the Building Safety Regulator is fully live. When the HSE are fully live as the Building Safety Regulator, that will bring about a culture change. You'll have been on site the same as I've been on site when the HSE arrive on site. You know how that sort of changes and sort of impacts things. So, so I think it will be gradual. I mean, the HSE are already in post as the shadow regulator, and then their role will transition over time, and they have a plan set out as to how that role will change. But when they become the full building safety regulator and will take responsibility for determining building control applications, that's when you'll get that seismic shift of culture that is obviously required.
When will the HSE be fully on board?
I can't say exactly. The intent, as I say, they're in post as shadow regulator at the moment. I think from the last sort of information I saw, it's around about 2 years for them to be fully in place as the regulator. But of course, we've got quite a few hurdles to go through with the bill, currently a draft bill, that will need to be sort of resolved through the government system. It will then need to get royal assent. So all of those sort of consultations, negotiations as we move through the process may actually extend or shorten that period. But I think we're realistically looking at around about 2 years.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks, Martin. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony. I don't actually have any more outstanding questions coming on the Q&A, but if anyone does have a question, please raise their hand and I'll quickly bring you in. Okay, I've got Robert here. So what I'll do, Robert Fisher, I'll now promote you. So just wait a second or two and you should be able to come in. Yep, there you go. You're ready to speak, and open your camera if you wish. Okay, Robert. Technical problem with Robert, I think. Yeah, you there, Robert? Yep, we got you now.
Just a quick question about permitted development. The government are trying to push forward rapid changes in planning, and permitted development is probably going to change to allow more multi-storey conversions to be carried out. How is this all going to fit in with the current regime and changes anticipated?
As far as I'm aware, there will still be a requirement for notification, so there will still be the intention to bring in that gateway stage. I accept what you're saying about permitted development potentially wouldn't be a sort of planning application scenario, but there's the intention to bring in, I understand, the notification framework. The other issue with permitted development where we extend sort of buildings is the new requirement to actually install sprinklers from the 11 metre threshold now from the previous 30 metre threshold. and we're lobbying quite hard with MHCLG at the moment to provide further clarity about how those sprinkler requirements will actually apply to buildings caught in this permitted development situation. But the simple answer, though, to your question is there needs to be more detail worked up in legislation as part to actually account for that permitted development situation. Because what you can't have is two regulatory regimes competing with each other. So one making it easier to gain planning consent through permitted development, and then the other being more restrictive. So there will be more work to do to actually align those to actually align those requirements.
Do you think this is going to happen within the short term? Because there's going to be large developments, especially in the changes in society with people now working from home. A lot of these multi-story office blocks are going to become vacant very soon, and they're going to be open to conversion instantly. People are going to make applications.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of notification framework. As I said, earlier this week I had a conversation with one London authority that's looking at a considerable number of these sort of type conversions already. So the work will start to come forward, but as you know, we're not currently in that new regime yet. So it's going to be a case of seeing how that situation unfolds as we, seeing how that situation unfolds as the bill unfolds into coming through into fruition.
Do you see a position where there'll be retrospective conditions imposed as these regulations come in?
Possibly. You're probably asking the wrong person. I'm not a planner, so it could well be. The other ability to bring in control would be that any building caught in that position now will ultimately be caught in the position of being required to issue a safety case, because within the new bill, regardless of what happens through the construction phase, there will also be ongoing control through occupation. So any building caught in that sort of position now, when it comes to occupation and the bill becomes fully enabled, there will be a requirement to issue a safety case through this bill anyway. So that may be the way that the government chooses to control the situation ultimately. I don't know.
So the jury's open at the moment then, and we just have to wait and see how it all
Yes, I think so, yeah. And there's a lovely picture of the top of Andrew's head, so.
Okay.
Don't know what happened there,
Right.
Andrew.
Very much
Yeah.
so.
Just showing my new haircut, Martin.
Okay, fair play.
Are you okay, Robert? Any follow on or?
Yes, I'm sure there's going to be more developments on that front, certainly in London and other major cities.
Absolutely, yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry I was late, Martin, and everyone else. My meeting with insurers overran this morning.
No problem.
So there's a couple more Q&A.
Yeah, I have. Tony Masters come back with a very quick question, so I'll read it out rather than bring it back. Do you think, Martin, that this will remove the phrase "or similar approved"? That's what he says.
Very much so. Detailed specifications, and those specifications will have to be adhered to, if not caught in that change management process. So very much so, definitely the removal, hopefully, of "or similar approved."
Thank you. John has come back. It's more a point than a question. He says, this is the start of a process to develop a bill, which is a draft, that is fit for purpose and will work. We have one chance to get this right. So that's his sort of statement.
Yeah, well, the draft bill was published last Monday, and it will go through the government procedures now. I can't imagine that with the resources that have been invested, that we're not going to get this right as we go through. But I probably would say that, wouldn't I? So.
Yeah, vested time. Okay, we don't seem to have any more questions immediately. I'm very happy to bring in someone from the floor if they want to raise their hand, if they have a point, a question, or something they'd like to contribute. So please feel free if you want to raise your hand. I've got Oh, I've got two, so let's bring them in. Got Robert and Thomas. I should have left them there, shouldn't I? So, Robert, I've opened yours again, and Thomas, I've opened yours. So, if Robert, you want to go on, Thomas, please be patient. There we go. You need to open your microphone, Robert. Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay, sorry about that.
Thank you.
And PI insurance and the impact on the industry. I've just renewed my PI insurance. I don't work on high-rise buildings, but the number of questions I was asked about high-rise buildings and everything and anything ever associated with high-rise buildings. How is this now going to impact on the insurance market? Because I can see this, you know, they're going to ask so many questions. It's going to be very difficult or very expensive. Is there going to be some sort of help or some other means of achieving a PI cover for people working on these high-rise buildings?
Yeah, the only real experience I've got in that is insurance that is required for approved inspectors. And I know there were issues within that just over 12 months ago where certain approved inspectors couldn't obtain insurance cover. And much of that, as I understand, was related to work on high-rise buildings. An approved inspector has to use an insurance scheme that is essentially approved by the government, and as far as I'm aware, there is only one active provider of that insurance at the moment. But I know the government are working with the insurance industry to look at other alternative schemes. I suppose insurance is an industry like any other. The more competition there is, probably the more attractive the prices are. But you're probably asking the wrong person, Robert, because I'm not really that that experienced in building not that experienced in building control. That'd be a good thing to say, wouldn't it? Not that experienced in insurance, so probably not asking the right person, unfortunately.
I don't know whether this has actually been raised in discussions through this process with both sides, the design side and the building to manage these larger buildings.
Yeah.
Cost of integration, you know, someone needs to start discussing it sooner rather than later.
Okay, well, it's definitely something that I can raise in discussions. I wouldn't be surprised if the government are actually already looking at that with others. But it's definitely something I can take back. It's useful, Robert. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Thomas, I switched your microphone off because there was quite a bit of background noise. So you need to open your microphone up again. Probably best if you stayed stationary, which you are. So thanks very much. Over to you.
Hi. Just a quick one now. I think you mentioned that there will be, sort of a form of checking compliance during occupation. How do we see that being, sort of implemented, or is there? I don't know if I missed anything during the presentation already.
Right, as far as that's concerned, when the building is constructed, you go through the three gateways. The third gateway will include the preparation of what's called a safety case to allow occupation. The ongoing control will then be to ensure that that safety case is kept up to date and is managed throughout the occupation of that building. The frequency of safety case inspections is still to be determined, and who will actually undertake that check of those safety cases is really still to be determined. The intention is that it is through the HSE as the Building Safety Regulator, but whether they will use the expertise of building control, the expertise of the Fire and Rescue Service, or of their own, or whether they still do it through a sort of multidisciplinary team, that's really still to be completely defined. But ongoing control will be through both the safety case and also any future building work or refurbishment will also be caught back within the original regime.
Okay, yeah, you quite rightly touched on some of the further questions I would have asked in terms of any alterations or any further works that needs doing will definitely have to be sort of looked at through that continual so that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. What you've proved is the versatility of Zoom on the move. So
Not bad.
thanks very much. Where are you?
Western Bird Arboretum.
Very nice. Oh, very
Yes,
nice.
yes,
Great.
yes, it's quite nice. Good day, actually, yes.
Okay, well, thanks very much for joining us. Do we have any more questions from anyone at all? Otherwise, I think what we'll do is we'll start to bring this to a close if we have no more questions, because I'm sure Martin would like to get back to cricket, given the current situation.
Certainly would, yeah. But no, but look, thank you for the invitation, Howard. I appreciate it.
Okay. Andrew, I don't seem to have any more questions, so as you weren't with us at the beginning, perhaps you'd like to end it for us.
I'll do the outro. So first of all, my apologies to you, Martin, for not being here at the beginning. But I am very, very pleased and thankful that you were able to give up your valuable time to join us. And the timing of it couldn't have been more perfect with the Building Safety Bill only issued last week. So thank you to you.
Okay.
Thank you, as always, to Howard for hosting it. And thank you to everyone else who's now become a regular for our webinars on a Tuesday and a Friday. We've got just one more in this current round of webinars coming up on Friday this week. We've got Rob Farrow from T. Clark going to be talking about, well, in particular, the Nightingale Hospital bill, but widening it to talk about the building of healthcare projects swiftly. And then we're going to take a bit of a break in August, and we're going to be back to you with more webinars on a Friday only, I think is what we're intending from September onwards. But for now, I wish you all a good afternoon. And if the cricket's exciting, Martin, I think I might go and watch that myself for a minute. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mark. Oh, he's gone. Oh. For those of you who's just leaving us, many thanks for joining us today. And we'll hope to see you on Friday.